So in today's video, we're going to do a character analysis video on one of the most underrated characters of ReZero, in my opinion. His name is Garfiel Tinsel. Yeah, the same guy that's actually a half-brother to his sister, a beautiful waifu named Frederica, except for when she had those scary-looking sharp teeth. But that's besides the point. But before we get into the video, I recommend you check out my other ReZero related content and other anime content. So let's get into the video. So we all know that Garfield made his debut in the anime of ReZero in season 2, but he actually made his light novel slash web novel debut in arc 4. Then yet again he came back in arc 5, and he is set to have a big major role in the second half of arc 7. Right now him and Odo is actually on their way back from Watergate city of Pristella. So we all know that Garfield is actually the half-brother and former guardian of the sanctuary, the same sanctuary that Ekna body remained. He was introduced as a second antagonist during the first half of arc 4. He later became one of the most important main supporting characters of ReZero. So let's take a look at the appearance of Garfield. Garfield is a young, relatively short boy with short combed gold hair, deep and short jaded color eyes. Due to his demi-human blood, he has sharp feline fangs just like his sister Frederica. In fact, Garfield and his sister actually has very similar facial features and facial structure, and have the exception of Garfield having a big X scar in his face. And he has that scar because he inflicted upon himself when he experienced his first trial seeing his mother's death. He fell into a state of panic and repeatedly bashed his head against the walls of the tomb, leaving him with a permanent white scar. Due to his vigorous training, his demi-human blood, Garfield is extremely strong and possesses a rather well-built muscular physique. He can usually seen be wearing a long black pants, torn up loincloth that is heliotrope purple on the outside and red violet on the inside to match his color palette. Garfield can also be seen wearing black long sleeve gloves with his red violet essence around his neck. A blue crystal can also be seen dangling around. So let's take a look at Garfield's personality. Unlike his oldest sister Frederica, Garfield used his mother's surname Tinsel to remember her. He was intentionally hostile to Subaru as he wanted to protect the people in the sanctuary since he believed the outside world to be a terrible place. However, with Subaru and Ram's help, he was able to face his past and overcome it. After making up with Subaru, he begins to call him Captain. So he's starting to have a bond with Subaru when time kept going forward and more bonding between the two. He has the feelings for Ram and uses various proverbs to impress her, and it winds up being no avail for him. He always gets rejected from Ram, so Ram is not really impressed with Garfield. As a 14-year-old, he also exhibits some Shoni Bayou tendencies, and frequently being impressed by Subaru's naming sense. Following his fight with Elsa at the end of Arc 4, Garfield was haunted by a black phantom of the gut hunter who appeared at the edge of his vision every time Garfield's psyche dropped significantly due to his troubling event that wouldn't give him any rest. Following his encounter with the strongest person, Reinhard, and humiliatingly being forced to flee from the inn before he could even exchange words with the sword saint, Garfield could observe Elsa's phantom looking at him from around every corner, keeping her distance, smiling at him. Despite eeriness of the situation, the phantom was not real, as Garfield stated, couldn't smell her scent, and he has that scent, just like that smelling scent of the witch cultist or anything like that, kind of like Ram, but Ram can't. And the narration later explained how Elsa's phantom was simply a manifestation of Garfield's weakness and regrets, which it roughly started 2 months after he left the sanctuary. So all these regrets and stuff starting to leak through, and these weaknesses starting to show that Garfield weaknesses, and Elsa is feeding off of that. And during a certain incident in a certain town, which she and Odo and Subaru was involved in. So all this stuff is coming to a head, and his weaknesses, his consciousness, everything is coming to a head, and it's feeding Elsa's shadow, and that don't even exist. It's not even a real shadow. It's just his illusion of her because of that situation. So everything's getting crazy for him in his mental state. So let's take a look at the history of Garfield. Garfield was born 15 years ago to a father who was half-beast human and a human mother, therefore being brought to his world as a quarter-beast human. Eventually, after wondering about, he and his sister Frederica, along with their mother Risha, and Roswell actually picked him up and gave him a home in the sanctuary, and Risha had left her children in the sanctuary to bring back her missing husband. Garfield and Frederica lived together until she left when he was around 4 years old, and he hadn't seen her since until their reunion 10 years later during the sanctuary incident. And after seeing his mother's death during the trial at a young age, he began to fear the outside world, causing him to try and protect the sanctuary. He was eventually convinced otherwise by Subaru and Ram successfully talked him into facing his past in the trial. So here's the last thing you should know about Garfield, his abilities. And I love Garfield's abilities. He's really underrated in the ReZero world when you talk about characters' abilities. So Garfield has the divine protection. As long as he has his feet on the ground, Garfield can freely manipulate the cement under him, manipulating the earth's shape at will. He can cause the earth to cave in without a single step, reduce the effects of earth magic, accelerate the recovery of wounds and stamina during his fight with Ram and Otto in Arc 4. He used it to create a barrier from the ground underneath him to protect himself from Ram's magic. He's also a magic user, but he has some decent skill in water magic, though he never uses it for offensive attacks. He has healing magic. Garfield summons water mana to heal the wounds himself and others. However, it does affect physical ones. The power varies by skill and talent of the individual, or partly that of the spirit if the caster is using spirit arts. He also has beastification. I love his beastification, just like his sister, going all the way back from his ancestral demi-human blood. Ali transformed himself into a towering 12 feet long golden tiger with a massive and thick limbs, as well as razor sharp fangs and claws, who can easily rip a man or even a fully grown earth dragon into two with a single swipe. Naturally, Garfield's physical strength in his tiger form was actually increased exponentially, although his speed actually suffered due to a reduction to his size increase. When it is in his form, he can easily deal with devastating attacks, but with the cost of losing his reason, making him avoid it impossible, if impossible. So he loses his mind during this transformation. He uses this ability when he pushed to the limit or facing overwhelming foe, just like he did in Arc 5 facing the War God. With that transformation, he also has flowing battle. That means Garfield has a very wild combat style, which relies on his instinct and his superior physique rather than his fitness to perform maneuvers only he can do. In addition to his natural strength, Garfield was able to hone his skills in melee combat over the years despite his isolation bringing up. It was revealed that his secret behind Garfield's strength is in an old book about Reed. In that book, unknown person described Reed training in detail. Garfield took the training of Reed in that book. He took it to heart, and he also spent his whole upbringing training by the book. In that book about Reed, the training actually involves a lot of hand-to-hand combat without any weapons whatsoever. He spent years replicating the training that Estria put himself through, honing himself into a skilled, unarmed combatant whose savagely fighting style revolves primarily around his instinct and therefore difficult to analyze. He also was made use of his enhanced psychology provided by his blood to have to his advantage. Along with his great strength and his capabilities and his abilities and unbelievable transformation of beastification, he also has two important pieces of equipment you should know about as well. The twin shields, and this is talking about the two shields he uses in combat. He is very skilled with them, using them for both offense and defense, as they're sturdy enough to withstand devastating blows that will eventually shatter his bones or cut off his limb, as well as delivering bone-shattering blows to his opponents. And this is what the theory is about. There's a theory that he could be the Shield Saint, and he's probably talking about his two shields he uses on his arm. And that is a theory about Garfield being Shield Saint. I might do a video about it later. But there's one more piece of equipment he uses called the Proxine Crystal. When Garfield and Frederica was younger, these Proxine Crystals were given by their mother when they were younger. And we surely don't know what they are yet, like what they do. We have no idea what these crystals actually do. I think Tappei sometime in the future will let us know what they do later. And this might play into Arc 11 about Frederica. Who knows, right? Who knows what's going to probably happen with these crystals, right? At the final arc where Frederica's going to have a major role. Who knows? We might find out later. sooner or later. But tell me what you think about the character analysis down below in the comments. Leave a like at the end of the video. Share with all your friends. And I hope you enjoyed this character analysis. Until then, I'll see you in the next video.